Alrighty, so welcome back to NZ Outlaw Kustoms. So I'm Glenn, if you don't know. I need to say that a bit more often so people know who I am. So here in, not my little workshop, but in the workshop that I work in, restore old cars and whatever. I'd like to do a bit more custom stuff. That will lead into that. We've basically finished this 24 Dodge. It's finished per se. It's finished as far as I'm concerned. I've got to make running boards for it, but we've still got the studio. We got a little bit of work to do on that. We'll muck around with headlights and bits and pieces. We're missing bits. Bits were broken. I just haven't got back to that sort of stuff. There's a few little odds and ends to go through. Basically, got to just finish it up, clean it up until it's ready to go for its upholstery, which is in a couple of 3 months' time sort of top thing. I'm not exactly sure when that is. I'm not dealing with that, and just that's done. The customer or the owner of the vehicles sorted that. I'm basically about to go home and have some lunch, and then I'm going to go back and look at the next project, well, hopefully to come in here. How much of a project I'm doing on it, I'm not sure. It's a 65 4-door Impala that a mate of mine's had for a long time. And it's been stripped down, it's been bare metalled, it's been parts of it sandblasted. I think the chassis has been sandblasted. It's had lots of bits and pieces done to it, and just in recent years. He was using it up till, I'm not sure, a few years ago. And then it really needed a big tidy up. It really needed a big tidy up when he first got it. I think I painted it satin black, 20 years ago. Because it was a bit rough and he wanted to kind of make it sort of a bit tidier, I guess, you know what I mean? We painted it we gave it a rough scuff back, 20 years ago. It would be about 20 years ago, and then painted it satin black. But it's had a lot of rust repair and stuff done to it in recent years. Some stuff's done, some stuff's not done. But you're going to have a look at that, see how much he wants to spend on the project, how far he wants to go, see what we can do within his budget at this point. And just see what he wants to do. It'll be I don't know if it'll be a restoration, but it'll be a reasonable restoration, sort of kind of back to stock, I think. I don't think it'll be 100% stock, but it'll be a sort of a semi-stock rebuild. I don't know if he'll take it back to the original colour, which was like a burgundy colour. I don't know, I haven't talked to him. But anyway, so that's kind of the next plan. So I may take you along today. We'll do a couple of maybe shots, we'll take some photos or whatever. And when we get the Dodge out of here, which I'm basically just finished, only thing I've got to do is make the running boards, but I'm going to make them over the next few weeks, just in between bits and pieces. I can't fold them here, so I've got to take sheet metal away, so I'll have to measure them all out, mark them all out, and I've got to go to another place where I use a big long folder, fold them up, and then make all the little bits and pieces. But this needs to go. It doesn't run and drive yet, but it shouldn't be hard to make it run and drive. I just don't know how well the mechanicals are on it. It was running 10 years ago. But yeah, I cleaned a lot of crap and dirt and shit and everything off the chassis. It's been all sandblasted and whatever. It's been just painted. We just painted it and put it back together. The mechanicals, just cleaned it up and painted it and put it back together. That's what he wanted to do. He kind of wants to leave that as just how it was. He thinks it should be okay running and driving, like it was running and driving 10 years ago. And then I've gone through doing the cosmetics and the rust. And if you haven't seen these videos here, I basically rebuilt the whole bottom 6 inches of the body, basically. I didn't replace this pan, but we did a couple of patches in it. But everything else, like all the inner wheel arches, bottom section of the body, I remade that valance, remade the fronts of those guards, the backs of the front guards, fenders. Didn't do a lot to the doors. The back doors needed a bit of panel beating. They'd been bent and twisted at some stage. I think I did a little bit of minor stuff on the fronts. The hood tops and sides were in pretty good nick. That one doesn't sit down very terribly well, but it hasn't got any of the webbing in there yet. They're going to do all that. It needs rewired. I just cleaned the tank and painted it. I repainted the chassis and everything like that. So yeah, it's just kind of what it is. We made it as good as we could within the budget. All the door hinges kind of need replaced. They're sort of funny casting, and they're direct into the body. They just drop in, so none of them fit terribly well. We kind of sort of did the best we could with what we had. But yeah, this is basically gone. You know, he didn't want me to he wanted me to leave the steering wheel and all that sort of stuff and the dash sort of how it was, just to leave it a little bit of originality in it, if you know what I mean. And this is the studio. So yeah, this was a major. This has been nut and bolt, top to bottom, rebuilt. A lot of the wood in it. A few people did some work before me, like a long time ago. But yeah, it's had a lot, basically all the wood replaced. We went through the gearboxes and the diffs completely, replaced bearings, got shafts made, motor was redone. Me and my father, again got him to help me. We went back into the motor a little bit, double checked some stuff because there was just some funny things that hadn't. When we went to put before we went to put the motor on, we noticed there was a few issues, like the head wouldn't pull down. It had some new studs made and they had shoulders on them that were too long, and the head gasket wouldn't pull down and wasn't pulled down properly, and funny things like that. But yeah, basically, yeah, hammered and dollied. This thing was really beaten, metal wise. The valances are new, the doors new, the back doors are new. They were made before me. I just do a bit of shrinking because they were a bit weird in shape. So had a lot of metal replaced in the back. I think the bottoms of the cowls were done. The only other things that were in reasonable shape was the hood stuff. The radiator surround has had some major work. Hasn't actually had any metal work like welding. A couple little repairs, but it was just pitted beyond belief. And it was the only. He does have another car up there and some other spare radiator surrounds, but this one here is unique to this body and year, standard 6. So yeah, didn't have another one, but yeah, that was really heavily pitted. So it's had a massive amount of copper work done to it and buffed and polished and then nickeled. These aren't the original headlights. They're the best ones we had. We do have originals, but we haven't got glass, or good glass. But yeah, I've completely rebuilt this thing from top to bottom. Basically, everything has been, the wheels have been rebuilt. We're actually waiting on new bands and tyres. But we've been waiting probably 12 months. This has probably been a couple of year project, to be honest. Even like it's been rebuilt from front to back, inside and out, everything. It's been quite a major rebuild, everything really. Like the dash has all been rebuilt and remade and repainted, and speedo. Like some of the other gauges we didn't have to do a lot to, we just cleaned them up. But yeah, the speedo and the fuel gauge we rebuilt. Yeah, tanks brand new. Yeah. Pulled 3 diffs apart to try and get enough good parts to rebuild, and we're using the same pinion and crown wheel set out of a set. It seems to be pretty good, but we had to hunt through carriers and all sorts of bits to get enough good parts to put one together, if you know what I mean, without being junk or worn out or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, that was a major made door handles. I made that full convertible top. Like these here I made from a solid block of steel. That was actually one big block of steel. both sides together. So yeah, but anyway, we'll go have a look at this 65 Impala, and yeah, we'll get back to you after we've either been and had a look at it, or we might do a little bit of video when we're there. We'll just see. I haven't had a look at it for a while. I actually looked at it quite a few months ago, but he's had some more stuff done to it since then, like clean up and blasting and whatever, to try and get the last of the paint off around all the door jambs and firewall and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's a factory right-hand drive one too. But yeah, we'll have some lunch, and we'll get back to you later on. Righty, how you going, guys? Just having a quick break for a minute. Basically, it's Wednesday, mid-morning. I'm just having a bloody clean up here. Just sorting out all the bits and pieces for the Dodge. You know, working out all the paint and bits and pieces, what I'm going to send away with them, and obviously what's mine for next projects, sort of types of things. You know, obviously body filler and whatever, you know, I'll use that for the next one, but I'm not probably going to be using the green, you know, and he's already paid for the green and the black for that. You know, some of the other last bits and pieces for, I haven't directly charged it to him, if you know what I mean. We just absorbed it within the price. So yeah, the body filler and the primer and whatever that I've got left over, I'll use on the next projects and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing for the next couple of days until this goes and the next project turns up. I will do a bit of work on the studio as well. I'll try to, but yeah, I think probably today and tomorrow, I think basically, well, I'll just have a massive sort out here, see if I can just get myself a bit more room and get myself a wee bit more organised, and just see if I can find some aspects of things a bit easier and a bit nicer to work with. And try and just gain myself some places to put things. Actually, the next car is actually going to be pretty nice because I'm not going to be pulling anything off it. It's that 65 Impala. It's stripped. It's right down to millimetre when it's been etched or epoxied. So at the moment, it's just bare chassis with suspension and wheels, obviously. No motor, no box, and none of that. All the wiring's out of it. It's bare. There's no fuel tank, nothing. And there's no doors, no glass, no front fenders, no bonnet, no boot lid or hood or whatever, trunk lid. That's all out of it. It's no interior in it. It's no wiring in it. No dash, nothing. No hood lining, nothing. It's complete bare car. So the plan is for that. He's got a limited budget at the moment, and he's just going to put that into metalwork, which is cool. It's fine. So basically the grass bit of his, after he got it all, he stripped a lot of it by hand, and then when he got it sandblasted, they just went quickly over it and cleaned it up, and blasted it. You know, he mainly did all the firewall and the door openings and shuts and more of the shitty places where you couldn't do it, and they just gave everything else, just did a light once over, kind of a bit like what I did with the Dodge, to be honest. I stripped most of the body, and they just whipped over it and just cleaned it up. They did all underneath it, and they pretty much done all the chassis underneath and everything. Like, they lifted up way up here and did a whole lot underneath as well, and all inside it. They redid the whole lot inside it as well. So yeah, but there's a few holes in it. It's had repairs done a few years ago. They had some rotten pieces repaired, but obviously when you strip it right down and blast it all, like, you find more. So it needs a left-hand rocker or sill, whatever you want to call it, inner and probably outer, or outer definitely, inner maybe, not sure. It's actually had a hit in that side before. We think it was about Harley or a bike, just by some of the stories. He's actually been approached by the original owners. Their grandfather or something had it. They must live in Australia. They approached him there a wee while ago. There's a couple of pages going around between here and Australia. It's like, where's my old car sort of type thing. And his car popped up on it, and he checked back through the regos, because it's got a different plate on it now. He checked back through the regos and photos and bits and pieces, and yeah, it was their car. And he said, oh, I've got it. And they wanted to buy it back, but it was in a million pieces. And he said, no, I really want to keep it. I've had it 20 years. And I've spent a lot of money on it since, because he's had all the motor rebuilt, he's had all the trans rebuilt, he's bought everything he needs for the suspension. He's bought a lot of stuff for it that obviously can't put on it because it's not painted and repaired. But yeah, so we need to go through and put so yeah, the story goes it was hitting the left-hand side about 1980-ish, and it had another cylinder rocker put in at that point, but it must have punched the floor in, I don't know, or that part of it. It must have punched in, the majority of about a foot, 10 inches sort of type thing, just obviously in that one spot. I don't know if they've ever replaced the doors or not, if you know what I mean, but it must have just crunched everything in. You can see where it's had a bit of panel work done. But anyway, when they put that rocker and sill in, it was never really put in like factory. They sort of just slapped it over top and just welded it sort of beyond where the original one fitted, back onto the floor where it humps over the chassis, where the chassis sits up underneath between the floor and the rocker, because they're quite deep. So you've got the rocker here, and then you've got the cavity for the chassis, and then it drops into the floor. Well, yeah, they just, instead of attaching it in that sort of piece before it goes over the chassis, they just glued it on around there instead of cutting it off and making it nice. They just slapped it over top and welded it on. And I think it's a bit like that on the underneath too. Just looking at the other side, I had a quick look. You can see it was obvious. Instead of being at that line of in a door part of the door where it was originally joined, it's 3 inches in or 2 inches in, if you know what I mean, where it's been tacked in or spot welded in or whatever. But yeah, it's had a lot of repairs since then. Like it's 40 years ago since that, basically, or about 40 years ago since that happened. So yeah, it's been patched and pooed up and whatever and rotten since then, if you know what I mean. Just driving around. So yeah, it needs a bit of work. He's got a dog leg to go around the back wheel arch. He hunted to try and find a new sill for that side. They just don't exist for 4 doors for 65. Whether they're the same as a 66 or 67, who knows? Probably not, if you know what I mean. It's probably something different. And he said it was real pain in the ass. He said you can get them for 2 doors, but they just don't seem to be available for 4 doors. So yeah, we're going to have to make that. He managed to find a dog leg. Somebody must have made a batch of dog legs at some point. So he's got one of them for that same side, and it's right in the wheel arches. And there's lots of little spots here and there. Nothing super major, if you know what I mean. Most of them are fairly reasonably easy repairs. There's a couple of little funny ones. There's a bit of rotting around the bottom of the boot opening or trunk opening, and around where the tail lights is and stuff. There's a couple of little patches like that. It's actually had quite a bit of repair work done up around the top part of it, but there's some more around there, and there's lots of little spots all over it, just little stuff. Most of it's no bigger than, sort of that sort of size, if you know what I mean. There's no major holes or it's not really rotten for miles. It's just like the odd little spot here, and there's a little spot there, and I think there's one we patched on the floor, and it's had a few other patches put in it, like up around where the rear pillar goes up, from the rear fender or rear quarter up. It's on one side, it's had a repair done in there at some point, and it's quite solid and tidy. Like I think he had that done like a few years ago when there was a bit of rust coming through and a few things like that. But it's had quarters on the bottoms of the quarters done at some point. Most of that looks okay, if you know what I mean. But there's a few other little bits and pieces here and there, and it kind of needs wheel arches on the back done and just bits and pieces. But it's all marked when it's all been sprayed in blue. That's had like a real bright blue sprayed on all those pieces, so they're all stand out, all obvious as shit, if you know what I mean. Without the holes being there, they're still obvious. So yeah, So that's kind of the next plan for the next few weeks anyway. Once we get that in here, we'll tear into it. That's good because I don't have to fuck around pulling the thing to pieces to get to it, or stripping it down, or getting paint off it, or anything. It's all done. All I do is cut the old piece off, you know, or pick the old piece off, work out what's made, how it's meant to be repaired and attached, and make the bits and put them on. So that's cool. So that'll be good. There's actually quite a, there's some lots of bits and pieces there that, you know, it's sort of stuff that I wouldn't say haven't made, but you know what I mean. Like it's going to be a good test and something else to learn with skill. So yeah, I want to get some tipping dies and bits and pieces too. So at some point, I'll probably have to get them for some of the parts, if you know what I mean. Once we've got worked out their shapes and whatever, we'll better use the tipping die and the shrinker stretcher and bits and pieces to get all that stuff to fit. And it'll just be interesting to see what's behind some of those pieces, whether I have to dig deeper and repair some of the other inner stuff that you can't see, if you know what I mean. That's in between the inner and the outer skins and bits and pieces. But generally the car's pretty solid apart from that, if you know what I mean. And then eventually later on, like there needs some corners and doors done and bits and pieces too, but we're just going to work on the body shell for start off and get that up to tip top at least. Then you can, because you see once he's got that done, he's going to paint all the chassis and put all that back together, put all the bushes and do all those bits and pieces, and then he can underseal the bottom of the floor, set the body on, and then we can do the next steps or whatever from there, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of the plan for the next few weeks anyway. Anyway, we'll catch you later on. Cheers. Righty, so I'm about to go for lunch. So I haven't seen this part of the floor for a while. So I folded up that table in the meantime. I've got everything else on here. I'll go back through it eventually. But I've kind of gone through it, just picked all the bits of metal up and, you know, just shifted everything into there and had all your quickly thought out. Just, most of it's for that. Well, I don't think there's anything for that when I've been going through it. And just threw that stuff up there, just kind of get it out of the road so I can get this floor cleaned up. And obviously now I might better push that board a little bit and make it a wee bit easier to work on it. Shuffle it over a little bit. Because I want to take that bit of ply off there too when I get that crap sorted out. And I'm still working through this as well. Kind of been just working in this area. So yeah. And while I've been doing that, I've been sort of listening and briefly watching, I don't know if you guys might have come across it. I think I mentioned it once or twice before. I think his name's Mark, I think it is. And Alberta way? Yeah, I think so. I have heard the town too, or the area that he's in. Edmonton, I think it is. Yeah. These twin sticks. He's got 3 trucks, these sort of building, kind of, you know, like there are different levels. He's got the Snowman, which is basically finished within reason. Like there's a few bits and pieces to do. He's got, which is I think 78 or 79, and he's got that 78 or 79 Peterbilt, which was the first truck he started working on, which is it's called a Little by Little. And he's also got the cab over Kenworth, which is I think it's Iron Duke or whatever it is. He's going to build a bit of a loose replica on, I think, by the sounds of it. So yeah, I've just been actually going through all his first videos over the last couple of days. Just I've been mucking around and having some time off, obviously because of Easter and stuff like that. So yeah, I've just been, while I've been cleaning up here, I just had the phone on the tripod, just listening to stuff as I'm going through shit and whatever. It's quite interesting going through some of the early videos. But yeah, cool channel if you're into trucks and just want to be something a little bit different. Yeah, he's just basically that Little by Little. He just basically dragged it out of a paddock, been there about 20 years, and started going through it and just he's rebuilding it from front to end. I think he's changed every air line and fuel line and brake line, and I think he had to rebuild the set or the front diff and power divider, and that was smashed. Didn't realise, and he said that's probably what pulled it off the road originally. When that broke, you know, they obviously gave up. But yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool truck. He's done a lot of work to it. Like it's, I think he's just in the moment now of actually stripping it down to paint it. Now that he's just about got the snowman, you know, he's basically, it is legal on the road. Yeah, so yeah, now that he's got that sort of, you know, 95% complete, the truck itself, yeah, he's pulled that one off the road to paint it. Now that he's sort of painted one, he's going to go in and paint that one. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I've just been going through the really videos. But anyway, I'm going to go have some lunch and we'll come back and we'll keep cleaning. Having a deep clean, I would kind of call it. Kind of. I'd like to freaking get into that other shit over yonder, but it's not mine. I'd like to grab another few feet of space, but we'll go through a lot of it. Once we sort of get back through a lot of this other crap, we might sort of pinch into sort of a bit of other stuff out and kind of maybe get some of the other road. I might even, some of the other Studebaker parts, we might just throw up on that landing up top, you know, just drag it up there or something like that and put the big ladder wherever the hell it is. Oh, it's disappeared. That big ladder has disappeared. Well, you know, yeah, at some point there's a whole box of bits and pieces and stuff we might start shuffling in upstairs so it's kind of out of my road so I can give me a little bit more space too. Or if we end up with something here and here in bits. You know, we'll catch you later on. Right, morning people. Just sitting in the car, just got here. Been pretty lazy the last few days. I just haven't been able to get motivated. The weather's been okay, I guess, but I just, it's been nice not to be under pressure, I guess, to try and get cars finished and whatever. I really probably should have been working on that studio, but frickin', I've been a bit frustrated. I'll turn your camera around and I'll show you why. It's that Toyota Hilux sitting there. It's the owner of the property, obviously. But because it's parked right behind the door, I can't move the fucking Studebaker out to have a decent clean-up around in that area, because I was going to move there's that bike with the little spray tank behind it as well. I was going to try and move all that out of the road so I could have a decent fucking clean-up around the workshop. All around that area and try and gain some more space and sort some shit out. But I'm not sure where he is at the moment. I don't think he's at home, but yeah, he's left that park right behind that door, and I've got no access to any keys. Like normally he would park it, look out the side here somewhere, you know. Yeah, and it's kind of out of the road, but it's pain in the fucking ass there. And also, it should be alright to get a trailer in here to hopefully get that car out of here, which is not going to be till next week now. Because the owner of the Dodge is way up country. You know, it's like an 8-hour drive or whatever back to here-ish, if you know what I mean. So he's not going to be back here until mid next week, which is fine. I don't mind. It's just that thing's freaking heavy. I was going to push that yesterday, but now it's complete. I can't push it by myself. Not back in anyway. I'd get it out, but I wouldn't get it back in, if you know what I mean, because of the lip on the concrete and stuff like that. It's just too heavy by myself. And yeah, I was thinking, oh yeah, well, at least I might be able to get the freaking studio to the road maybe today, but yeah, I don't understand why he parked it there, because like he knows I've been driving it in and out, and it's a good opportunity to fucking clean up, and I can't get the cunt out of the road. Oh, did you hear my frustration? That's part of the reason why I've just been going fucking home. Like I've been doing about 3 or 4 hours here and then going home again. But anyway, yeah, I'm not sure if he's here or not, but yeah, I just thought he might have moved the fucking thing. But anyway, we'll get in here and do some more bloody cleaning. Well, I'm making some progress here. Obviously got a lot of shit on the bench. Just crap everywhere at the moment. But I'm gaining some progress here because I'm gaining space, just sort stuff out. Obviously, I want to go through all this crap. I'm actually going to go through everything on these racks. When the sun brings the ladder back, I'll start shuffling. Like all these gearbox parts and cases and stuff, I'll make something so I can drag all that shit upstairs. And some of these other, steering wheel stuff and parts all over there. Anything we're not using, for that at the moment, can go up there. I've actually popped all the headlights that I had sitting down here, all the old ones there, because when I get a chance, this is out of here, and I got that 65 and I'll be doing a bit of stuff on there. I'd like to be doing a bit of stuff on that now, but I'm quite enjoying just pottering around here, trying to get this stuff a bit more user friendly, I guess you'd call it. I just want to try and have a bit more space for some tools and bits and pieces and whatever. I've got all my drills and my Allen keys and Torx head stuff, and here I've just got all the miscellaneous. I've always had lots of bits and pieces, stuff in packets that come with tools and whatever. All those miscellaneous Allen keys I've just thrown in here. And I've got a couple, or set of metric, set of imperial Torx heads, and again another set of metric and Torx heads in there, and I've actually got a set of T-Torx heads over there as well. But anyway, so yeah, hopefully by the time I've gone through all this stuff, I can gain some room back here. We'll see if we can get some of this. There's lots of screws and roofing screws and all sorts of funny stuff like that amongst that, which I do go through a bit of, and I want to try and obviously utilise this, and I want to try and utilise up there too, just because it's the paint for doing all the woodwork that I used in the studio. So like I've got that little box, so I know what it is. I think I wrote on it somewhere. Yeah, I did on one end. I might write on it in a couple more places. So if it gets ever picked up and moved and turned around, well, you can still see what it is, if you know what I mean. But yeah, there's lots of things like that you're not going to be using very often. But if you happen to get somebody in here and go, oh, can you? I've seen here, wood grain, the dash and bits and pieces on the studio bay. Can you do mine? Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, do you want the same colour, or we can find, we can add another colour into it and put it in that pottle. Lay it out and start playing with stuff, and you've always got it there, if you know what I mean. And it's the same with the undercolours and bits and pieces. I might actually organise them so they're all in one spot, like the undercoat. Like there's plenty of that there. Like I don't know how much I used of it. Maybe a third, if you know what I mean. So like I could probably do another whole lot of that sort of stuff, at some point for somebody else, or for the other one, at some point. But yeah, like I'd like to have a bit more of that sort of stuff organised. I know where it is at some point. If I can't get these over there in the meantime, I'd like to be able to at least utilise it, and it's not so much full of so much junk. Like there's gun bags and all sorts of stuff in here. Like there's a big tripod for one of those laser levels and all that sort of stuff in here that just could be utilised and put somewhere better, or that possibly once we get some shit cleaned up from underneath, we can pop that underneath, so it's gone out of the road. Like there's old gold panning frickin' pans and all sorts of stuff that could be just put somewhere where if somebody was ever going to use them, they're handy, or somewhere reasonable, but they're just not frickin' somewhere where I could put parts and whatever, if you know what I mean. It's kind of my thinking at the moment. But yeah, there's lots of studio parts in amongst this stuff too, so it needs to be organised. Like this is the glasses for those big headlights. And that's obviously the bottom, so. But yeah, I've got lots of tools and bits and pieces I'm just going through and sorting out too, and whatever, with blocks. So I'm just trying to clear the shelf so I can go through and sort a lot of the stuff out. My files and bits and pieces and these chisels and whatever, and paint, like just little paint brushes and stuff. I'm just trying to organise. Some of this will be shifted again, if you know what I mean. I can get back over there. But yeah. just want to try and sort it out so I get some usable space, not tripping over stuff like I wouldn't. Don't mind, sorting all that all thread out. There's a lot of all thread down there. A lot of it's pretty rusty, but it comes in handy occasionally, just for holding something together. Sometimes you get a weird thing that you want to just hold together. A bit of all thread and a couple of nuts, and away you go, if you know what I mean. Until you get the right bolt or fastening or whatever. But yeah. Yeah, we'll carry on. Isn't it amazing what you find when you're dead shit at a shelves? This is another part of a 3/4 drive socket set. It's not just a few sockets and bits and pieces, but the other one that I got over here, like the box is actually munted on this one. Well, destroyed, munted, whatever. But between the two, I might drag this one over here now. Then I'll get in some shelf space. I might drag this one over here, and between the two, we'll just put all the stuff together. There's more, like there's the ratchet and the sockets and stuff over here as well. But between the two, I think we'll make, obviously, a pretty good full set, and obviously some extras. At some point I'll clean up these other really rough sockets. Some of these are sandblasted ages ago. Like they don't look that good, but they were really fucking cruddy. Some of them were even worse than those, but I sandblasted the worst of the ones at the time. But some of these need more done, and then probably just coated in something, just so they don't get worse. This box wasn't great, but it's not in bad shape. But yeah, might give that one a bit of a straighten up, and we'll go through and we'll just put a full set in there, and then just put a few odds and sods around it, if you know what I mean. And then we've got a bloody good collection of big stuff, that will, if we ever need big gear. And we've got a few extensions now too, which will be really handy. Because I only ever had the one long one. Now we've got two of those and a shorty. So yeah. I know there's longer ones than that. I've used longer ones, but yeah, like handy, Then we might actually have a reasonably complete set. Didn't even realise it was there. That's the advantage of just going through more of this crap. I've got the ratchet here. And there's a few other sockets around here that I've used at different stages. I've bound to find another one. I think most of the tools are here. Well, within reason, apart from some of the stuff I was using the other day. Just doing the last few odds and sods and that thing, but yeah. We might, I'll sort this out. And we'll end up with a decent collection of this stuff here. I'm not going to leave here. I've just been picking it off here. I'll put some of this back down here or wherever when I freaking eventually go through all this stuff. And just, it's handy. Like a lot of these tools aren't mine, but a lot are. But it's freaking handy to know where they are if you need them, especially for big sockets. Now, what I think its biggest is 2-inch. 2-inch or 50 mil. So I've got both up to 2-inch, which is awesome. Which whatever one they go on, if you know what I mean. So it's absolutely wicked. So I should be able to sort out basically a fairly complete set here, and there'll be a few double ups, but that never hurts. Anyway, we'll carry on. Oh, after lunch we'll start going through this. So I've been through that top shelf reasonably well. But yeah, we'll go through all this and we'll just sort of get rid of the crap and, put all the stuff that needs to be there, and try and sort out all the pick screws and whatever, and just so it's, easily available. And we're not tripping over shit and whatever, and then we can, once we get all the stuff sorted, we can go through a lot of the stuff and sort it out and put it back properly. Or if it needs to go up there when we get the ladder back, we'll put it up there. You know, we'll make a pole down there somewhere. But yeah, I think this is a good place to start. Anyway, and then we can finish sorting a lot of this stuff out. And we can hopefully might be able to put some of the stuff off the bench in the rack, so it's a bit more usable. I've sort of started going through those sockets. Obviously, when we go through this other stuff, I might find some more. There's a few. These are odd ones. Some of them missing, so that's probably why there's been 2 sets. This is probably the remnants of 2 sets, and there's probably got another one somewhere. It's probably in his truck, I'd say. Yeah, because there's the odd one missing. There's like a 38 missing and an inch and 7/8. I think that might be here, but I'm not sure. That might be still over. There's some of the other stuff that I haven't finished going through yet. But I just really wanted to go through all this stuff to try and see if we can gain some space to put stuff, you know, and just get rid of the shit that's been building up. Righty. I haven't got back to here. I've been over here cleaning up. Trying to just sort some room out. Obviously cranked the studio up. Cranked up pretty good. It hasn't been started for, I don't know, more than a week. Yeah, pretty much fired straight up. It really needs the trickle charges put on the batteries and juiced up a wee bit, but it still started fine. So I've been cleaning out around here because I'm just trying to sort this freaking mess out a little bit. His owner's son had been using this, but it was facing around the other way, so he could obviously sort some stuff through, but I actually spun it around the other way, so at least it can be kind of used here, unless you're doing big long stuff or something like that. You know, if worst comes to worst, you could drag that shit off the top if you wanted a bit of long length stuff. Just trying to kind of make it usable, but not have to move it too much. Hopefully until some point, you know, well, these tractors get out of here. If you could ever get it out of here, you'd have to clean all the shit away. But I was in amongst here, sweeping up here, because I want to put the big ladder up here so I can get stuff up and put it on this side of the mezzanine. There's a bit of space up there, you know, I could stack some boxes and stuff up on this edge, you know, where the car's not, if you know what I mean. But there was a lot of crap and shit in here, so I just had a bit of a clean up through here and had a bit of a sweep. So yeah, and I was hunting through, and there's some buckets of stuff that come from the owner's mother's and father's place. Now that I think his father's been passed a wee while and his mum's in a home. But yeah, there was a lot of tools and bits and pieces. So I was having a bit of a poke through some of the couple of buckets of stuff, and I found these freaking drill bits. It was awesome because there's some big buggers in there. Are reasonably big, you know. They're perfect for like way too big for a hand drill, but perfect in this. You know, you'd have to slow it right down. But if you want to drill a big hole, apart from using that step drill, but that one's an inch, I think. I don't know, it might be the other one. Oh, freaking one-handed life. So I'm not sure what size this is. 0.87 or something, whatever of an inch. Shame it doesn't show you inch fractions, but this one here, I'm pretty sure it's an inch. Yeah, 0.999, so yeah, it's an inch. By the time you get out to the cutting surface, it'll be an inch. This one here's big. It's like 1.25 inches. And there's a few smaller ones, and obviously you know, some of these are tiny, but there's a few bigger ones in here. Because the biggest one I've got is a 3/4, and just normal bits, if you know what I mean. I got a 3/4 and a 5/8 and a couple others. Oh, they're in here. I think, yeah, I poked them back up in here the other day. Yes, there's a 3/4 and I think I'm not sure if it's that one or another one that's 5/8. But that's all the only big, like bigger stuff that I've had, apart from that step drill. But having those would be really handy if you want to drill actually through a hunk of steel. Like step drill's no good for going through that, but it's alright for going through panel steel or, thinner stuff if you want to open out a hole. But if you really wanted a half decent sized hole in something, with these ones here, you get a reasonable selection to at least get close to what you want, if you know what I mean. And worst comes to the worst, well, you'd have to go somewhere else and find a drill bit or whatever. But these would be perfect. I can set them up in something. I might set up a spot somewhere near this, like with a little holder or something like that, eventually, and put just the big ones in it, and just have them permanently beside it. I wouldn't worry about having the small stuff. They can still sit over there. We can go through these and sort out what these are, and I stick them in the collection, and I give them a clean up. They only need to clean up. They've got a wee bit of surface rust and stuff, but what does that matter, I'll give them a clean up. They look like they're all in good nick. So yeah, perfect. Like, I don't know how good a quality they are, but they could be pretty good. So be perfect for just drilling some big holes through some decent tanks of plate if I need it. So that's awesome. It's amazing when you find when you fucking have a little bit of a dig. So anyway, we'll get that corner cleaned up and then I'll come back to this. Yep, I knew there's a reason why I cleaned it up over there. I thought this fucking thing was here. It must have, when I was sorting stuff out, and I ended up with one of those bits of plywood sitting on that bike for a few days. It must have been on there, and then at some point got bumped. Possibly when the owner's son was mucking around with that sawhorse, he could have hit it or something like that, and that rolled off and ended up underneath the bike. So I've just been moving it around, sweeping up around there. Sure enough, when I pushed it forward, it was sitting underneath the tyre of the trailer. So no wonder I couldn't find it. So yeah, we'll give that a quick polish up and throw it in the car. And that means I can actually put the inside door handle and everything on too. I hadn't really put that on, so yeah. No, I knew I'd find it eventually. Actually, I gotta find the fucking nut now, because I don't know what the missus did with that when we were having to clean up the other day. It was like, it's a little, like, I don't know if it's aluminium or cast or something like that. It's like funny metal, might even be sort of pot metal, the nut off the inside, which is a pain in the ass too, because I had all the stuff on here and then she was picking stuff up and moving it. It's probably in one of these bottles on here, but I just got to hunt that out too. But yeah, I knew I'd find it. I wasn't too stressed because he's not going to be here until next week to pick it up, but that's why I'm trying to have it clean up now so I can get all these last bits and pieces sorted out. And then also that 65 is coming, sometimes shortly too, so that's kind of why I've got the sturdy out, and I've got that dolly thing that I'd actually want to make fucking small. It's too big. I'd actually like to make it about, it's probably, to be honest, it would actually be okay for like a bigger body, like something more modern, if you know what I mean, like 70s, 60s, 50s, or even 40s stuff. It would probably be alright for that. It kind of made it for these smaller cars, like the 20s stuff, where the body's all up narrow and short. I kind of made it for that, but I think it's still too big, and it's borderline too high. It needs about 6 inches chopped off the height, and probably a foot narrower, and then it'll be actually a better size. But that's all right. We won't panic about that in the meantime. And I'm going to cut that out. See that other dolly I had on this Dodge body when it was upside down, and the other way. I'm going to cut that to pieces and I'll pull the wheels off, and we'll stick them back in a box somewhere until I need them again. And if I ever need to make another one to do something similar, well, I'll just go buy a bit more steel. But I want to use it to brace up the inside of that 65 when I cut that rocker out. We don't want to collapse or move, so I have to brace it across between obviously the front pillar and the rear pillar in the centre, and then obviously something across to the other centre and maybe a couple of triangulations. Just doesn't have to be too massive, but you know that's I think it's 30 mil. I think is it 30 mil box. Is it 30 or 40? It must be 30. Yeah, it's 30 mil stock. It's about inch and border 1 inch and a quarter sort of type sort of thing. So it's fairly solid, and it's not light. Well, I think it's light wall. It's like 3 mil or 8th wall. So it's plenty strong enough to put through there both directions. Hopefully it's long enough to go back across between the pillars, that other piece. If not, I've got a couple of scraps of it. I'll just weld it back on and put it across it just to stop that one post collapsing in, and obviously the body collapsing, and then we might have to do a couple of triangulations in it, like I said. But I've got plenty of other bits and pieces here I can do that with as well. But yeah, it's good to find that. We'll go on, keep cleaning up, and I'll keep listening to Mr. Twin Sticks, Mark. Yeah, I've been going through his, like I said the other day, I've been going through all his videos, just on the different builds on the trucks that he's been building. Actually, he's got Patreon, and it sucks. I wish I could. I'd like to really support some of these channels that have got Patreons, especially the stuff that I like watching, because I know they've got content on those other Patreon stuff that they're not putting up on YouTube. But at the moment, I just can't afford to, with all the subscriptions that you have for fucking everything. I just can't afford to pay, a monthly fee for this and that and everything else as well, as much as I would like to with some of these channels. Righty, so I've had a major fucking clean up here as well. I haven't moved any of the shit away from down below, bits and pieces, and I still obviously got to get in here, but I've had a major clean up on the shelves. I sorted a lot of this stuff out. Try to put, there's lots of like nails and the old fencing staples down that end, and obviously tech screw type sort of stuff down this end. On the bottom, it's actually a shame there's not another frickin' shelf. Would have been quite handy if there was a third, because you would have just pushed that one out and put one in the middle and put a bit more crap on it. But you do it with what you got. I just put everything on here and then started sorting it out. Obviously, we're going to get rid of some of this other junk down here, and we'll get that upstairs when we get a chance. Probably what I'll do is I'll probably put a piece of board back on there, and a lot of that stuff from around here, what we'll do, I'll probably end up lifting it onto that, and then we can drag it across there. I can probably push the bike back and we can get it close, and then I'm not walking backwards and forwards. And hopefully might better get somebody to give me a hand. We'll get a lot of that crap up there, and that other stuff over there, all the other spare parts up. Well, most of it anyway. Spare the old floorboards and bits and pieces we can use for patterns when we if we ever tackle the coupe that he's going to turn into a boat tail speedster. I think that's his plan, if it sticks that or not. That's going to be a huge job. That's going to be it's a bigger job than either of these. Like, that's basically a full body build. Like, there's nothing usable. Maybe the cowl, and there's a spare cowl up there of that same era. It's basically the same as that one, but there's differences. But yeah, so it's cool. We're getting clean up here. I actually thought maybe that 65 might have been here. I'm not sure. I'll give him a message and just see when he's going to turn up, because I'm getting close to heading home for something for a bite to eat anyway, and then head back down here. Found a few more tools and sockets and stuff. I found this like 1/2 inch set. Not that I'll end up using it, but it's just handy to have there. Like big frickin' box cutter, like a dart. I bought a couple of cheap ones. I used to have a really nice box cutter pocket knife, but I found this. Like it's a decent sort of bloody blade. But it's big enough that it actually doesn't go back in there. I don't know if that's meant to go back further or not, or whether there's junk jammed in there. It looks like it should go back in there, but it doesn't want to. But I haven't tried either. Too hard. So yeah, had a clean up. Found a few other bits and pieces in there that I just didn't know was here. Nothing major, if you know what I mean. But I was one of those freaking like hose cutters. For cutting, like I think it's for like cutting, like your radiator hoses and shit like that. Like it's got a wee bit of damage on it, but it might sharpen up and be useful, if you know what I mean, for cutting rubber line. Stuff I just didn't even know was here. Like there's mountains of that, but that was all in amongst this stuff. It was just garbage piled on top of garbage, really. It hadn't been sorted. I hadn't gone along there. I managed to clean one end of it at one point, and just so I had somewhere to put some stuff. But yeah, that's quite good. Like any tools that'd be useful, I'll keep down on these sort of 3 shelves, and I want to try and use the rest of it for I use this stuff occasionally. I might put some extra just smaller screws and nuts and bolts and stuff up there. I've got a bit of a mixture of like machine screw sort of type stuff. I've got a bit of that sort of stuff over here. Like eventually I want to go through all that crap over there, and just have a decent more sort out, and have more sort out on that floor, and get rid of some of that other stuff. Maybe poke it up that other piece until such time as we actually get access to that, like proper access. Some of the other crap that's on the floor over there I might slowly poke up in there. Stuff that's just a pain in the arse and in the road. Then I can sort out those nuts and bolts bins a bit better. But yeah, I might be able to put some stuff over here, and then obviously bigger hardware, actually nuts and bolts over there, and machine screws and stuff like that, little nuts and bits and pieces over here, along with this sort of stuff. At least I know where it is. And there's freaking like nail gun stuff there and all sorts of things. So yeah, I've had a bit more of a sort out. Used a couple of these old paint bottles to put some. There was a few boxes that was like this that were just falling to bits. You couldn't really see what was in it because it was just full of dirt and shit. So I just threw some of them in there. They come in handy, Don't throw them away. Like if it's half full of junk or something like that, well, you're fine. But they bloody come in handy. But yeah, like a lot of this stuff here. There's a lot of crap along here. At some point, we'll go through, and we might better just poke it up behind that tractor for a while. I'll just get it out of the road, Once I get some of this stuff in that clear, like I've got a whole heap more walking room again. I actually may end up making seat bases for the studio. We're trying to find old 60s or 70s or 50s seat bases so we can make something to fit in the bottom of that, because we're going to have to make it a bit lower and a bit narrower. Well, not so narrow. The back will be a bit narrower, but the bottom we want a wee bit lower, especially in the front. Because like I'm not 6 foot, but I'm a fairly big guy, and the owner, I don't know if he's a little bit taller than me. He's probably not quite as big as me, but he's probably a little bit taller. But if the seat's too thick or it's too high, we can't get in. If like with that padding in there, which was I think the original front seat, or close to original front seat, or I think what's out of that other thing, even though it's pretty rotten. We had a cover over it and sitting on it, and you're too high. We're too high in that. Like people must have been smaller back then, or I guess they were probably just finer. They weren't so big. They were worked like freaking oxes, and they're probably like I know in the 20s and stuff like that, people were, that was sort of the mids of the Depression after the Second World War, after the First World War, I should say. So like, people probably, might have ate once a day You know what I mean? Like rations were pretty thin, so mind you, if you probably could have afforded the Studebaker, you probably went too hard up. But yeah, you know, like people obviously just weren't so big. They worked harder. Everything was manual, or a lot of it was manual. You know what I mean? You know, like tractor work that they do now, like, you know, they probably would have been, you know, 50 guys out in this paddock tearing it up with, you know, like back in that day with a couple of little tractors or something like that, you know, and whole the other guys doing all the work behind them. But and nowadays you just run around there with a couple of tractors and it's done. You know, whereas they, you know, with two guys were, you know, probably back in the, you know, 100 years ago, there would have been more than just two guys out there doing it. And tractors. But anyway, so I might give my mate just a message or a ring and just see what his plans are and what time he's going to turn up with that car, and I might shoot away and get some lunch and then come back. Righty, people. So I'm still cleaning up here. We're really getting some mess cleaned up. Like I'm creating messes, I'm cleaning mess, but we've got less crap underneath the shelves now. I've only just got a bit of frickin' all thread and a couple of bits and pieces to get sorted. That bucket of nails or whatever it is can probably stay there. There's a block of blue container underneath here. I need to have a look on that, just see what's in there. But yeah, we've cleaned along a lot of it along there. Obviously it's not clean yet, but we're getting there. I've had a rough sweep through there. I am contemplating, if I can, that bead roller there, which we bought ages ago with that set of rollers and the shear, and there's some other little, I guess you'd call them, they're bead rollers or similar sort of things, just they're oddball things. One day I'll pull them out and show you, but I'm actually contemplating, because this has got half decent throw, it's not huge, but I'm contemplating swapping this wheel over, taking this one off completely and making a like a nylon wheel for down there, or see if I can maybe find an old skateboard wheel, like a big old one, if I can find something, or make something up, turn something up, and put it in there and give this here a bit more of a sharp edge and turn it into a tipping die bead roller. It's got a back gauge and everything on it. I don't know how old it is, it's old school. But it might be alright for just tipping edges on panels. It would be better if it was pad, obviously, like that. But maybe in the meantime, I can probably make something one Saturday or Sunday afternoon out on Dad's on the old lathe, once I get a hold of a hunk of material, make a tipping die up and then sharpen this up so I can tip edges up, which I think would be really freaking handy, and then eventually get something that I can put onto there, but still have this as, you know, as a second plan or whatever. Especially if I'm just doing little stuff and I just want to tip an edge up on something weird, some weird, you know, really sharp shape or something like that. We'll see. You know, I might be able to do that with that. Because I want to see if I can utilise those other things too at some point if I can get them set up somewhere. I'm not quite sure where I'd set this up because it needs to be bolted to something, but at some point I wouldn't mind doing that in the next wee while, you know, because I'm thinking for this 65 Impala I might need it just for some of the weird shapes I've got to make. Should be here shortly. I'll just look you up a little bit. Yeah, it should be here shortly, I think. I know he was loading it up on the trailer there just 5-10 minutes ago. And he's probably 15-20 minutes from here, if you know what I mean. With a trailer on. We're only allowed to do 90 kilometres an hour or 55 or whatever it converts to. Miles an hour. That's all we're allowed to do over here with a towing the trailer. It's not like the US where you can still freaking scream along at 100. I don't know how that works over there, but yeah. It seems to be all the trucks and all that sort of stuff. I was talking to Arco the other day and he said that, well, it's been a while, but you know, we've talked about the trucks going up the interstate near his place, which, you know, goes through to the Canadian border, which is, you know, half an hour-ish away from where he is in Minnesota, one of the border crossings. And he said those trucks was through there freaking, you know, 95, 100 miles an hour. They freaking just fly. And I was just like, that's freaking fast. I don't know how they do it, but I've twigged a little bit. All the trucks here, I wouldn't say all, but yeah, probably would be. Probably would be all. They're either on 22 and a half. Well, they're 90% of them would be on 22 and a half. Or there might be the odd truck that's still floating around on 20-inch split rims. But most of them are on 22 and a half, either 11 hours, 295 80s, and a lot are on 275 70s, 75s. They're low. They are way lower because he's got his trucks on 24 and a half or 24s inch rims. Which, yeah, I didn't realise. I knew that they made them, but I didn't realise it was still a common thing over there. I thought they would have been stored on 11 Rs, you know, 22 and a half. So I didn't realise there was a lot of that stuff was on the big wheels. So yeah, anyway, this might be the trailer, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll leave it running if it is.
Out to the show, kick it into high gear. Now we let go. And if you're feeling weary, I feel like you gotta scream. Then let's go for a ride in a shiny machine.
Right, well, it's here. So, yeah. So this is the first piece we're going to tackle. We're going to rebuild. Also the outer rocker and probably the inner. And then we've got dog legs for both back wheel arches. So we'll start with that. Or this and that. And then we'll go to the other side. And then we're going to get this wheel arch. We'll go as far as we can with what the money we've got, if you know what I mean. And obviously the weeks. And yeah, and then we'll get into this. This one looks like it's pretty good. We'll leave that. It's solid, but it's ugly. If we've got time and the money to do it, I will redo that because it's pretty fucking shit. I could do a damn sight. I could just about do a better job with my eyes closed, I think. But this one here is being patched. It's not pretty, but it's way better. You know, there's a couple of holes that need patched, so you might end up having to do it anyway. But and there's lots of funny little spots just with his rot. And we'll just see what we can do. Some of it we might better just make some little panels in there. I could possibly, because it's spot welded in there, so I might better just even cut a small section out of here. Yeah, and then make that like in a little, and then shrink and stretch that and put it into there, if you know what I mean. And weld it back in and dress it up. This is a simple little repair. There's a couple little holes in there. Get that cleaned up. It's a fairly simple. Well, it's been sandblasted, so yeah, this has been patched at some point, but it's just never been finished off properly. Yeah, it's got a hole in here that's never been fixed, so that needs all cleaned out and done, or repaired. You can see whether it's had some other repairs done at some point. we'll have to have a good look. We'll have to lie on the boot in there, or trunk, and we'll have a good look. Again, like I said, a patch put in here, but it's never been fixed properly up into here, which is not good. A couple of small holes in the floor there somewhere. It's a bit of rotten up in here. Same up in here. Bit in here. It's had some patches done before, but it hasn't been done right or finished off properly, if you know what I mean. A couple of holes through here. If we can, we're going to get in here, and he wants to seam weld this, but there's a few little pinholes in here, so we'll just see. He would like to actually seam weld that seam, so it's all one, if you know what I mean. So they disappeared, like, I think it disappears about here anyway within a fender. I'm not sure, but yeah, we could soon seam weld that and grind it off. So it's just one wall, if you know what I mean. So it's just tidier. I don't think he's going to pull any of the holes or anything, you know what I mean. But seam weld it, and obviously there's a look in here, just see what's going on here. But you can see where it's bust open. He's had it all sandblasted and everything like that, so there shouldn't be any more rot in it. But yeah, it's about the balls of it. Like, it's, you know, it's had patches put in there. Oh, it's good and it looks pretty good and solid. There's a couple of pinholes we could probably tidy up. Same in here, you know, that needs fixed. So really, you'd cut a decent patch out of here, have a good look, clean up on the inside, and weld it, you know, put a bit of a bead in it, and put just a gentle curve. We could probably put that through the wee roller, just to even get a bit of a gentle curve in it, or something. Probably wouldn't even have to do that. It needs to come out to about here somewhere. Weld it down in there, grind it out, clean it up, and done, you know. So we'll tackle the big stuff first, and then if their budget doesn't quite stretch that far, we'll see what's left in it, and we'll just work out, you know, it might be only another day's work, you know, we'll just do it type of thing. But yeah, at least we can get that, if we can get that solid for him, he'll be happy, and then he can take the chassis away and get it all painted and cleaned up underneath there, and then, you know, depending on how much more of a budget he's managed to build up, we'll do doors and bits and pieces as well for it. So yeah, that's the next project for the next few weeks. We've only really got enough money for about 3 weeks, but I should be able to redo this in 3 weeks. I would think you should be able to pull it up. I'm not having to fight with pulling it apart or cleaning it up or anything like that. It's just get it out, see what we're going to do to make that, and go from there. It's fairly simple. I think it should be fairly straight. We'll put a straight edge down the other side because this is a bit banged about. We'll put a bit of a straight edge down it, see if it's fairly straight. Obviously take a few measurements. We'll bend up a rocker and slip her in. Join it properly in here if we can, instead of backing it like that, and we'll try and clean this floor up. That's the plan. Just see if we can straighten it out a bit, make it look a bit tidier. If worst comes to worst, we might make a new piece and graft it in. And if I have to do that, I'll just unbolt with the chassis, and we'll just lift it up on some. We'll just prop it up on some 4x2s or something on the chassis, you know. I think it's only about 6 bolts holding on, so yeah, we could soon zip the bolts out and, you know, block it up even a couple of inches, just so we can get in there to a bit more access, if you know what I mean. If we have to, you know, we've got the cherry picker there, or engine crane, that we can, you know, we better hook into something here somewhere to lift it. Somehow we'll work something out to lift it. Yeah, we'll work something out to lift it if we have to, or just up off the chassis a bit. So yeah, we'll get her cleaned up. And that's kind of why I want the tipping die, to make those edges, but we'll see. I might better do it without it, if you know what I mean. I might better just use that, but run it on the flat, and just use the crown and just to bend it, you know. Put a bit of pressure on and force it up to make some of these little bits and pieces. And we'll measure this up, whatever. weld some bits in there, obviously fix the inner and whatever. Yeah, all good. Righty. See you Monday.
Hey guys, if you need welding gas, go see the boys at Cool Gas. If you're in New Zealand, yep, go see these guys. They'll look after you. Cool Gas, New Zealand.